Deities, aliens, and alien hybrids tend to herald a new era in the Dragon Ball series. Attacks that used to cause devastation seem to be laughed off. Movements become nearly impossible to see, and onlookers seem to be capable of little more than stints of gasping and stammering as they are now rendered helpless.
Yeah, mate, you're so in trouble now.
But the Kais or Beerus were not the first gods or godlike beings to appear on Earth, and Gohan was not the first alien-human hybrid to appear in the series either. Believe it or not, both of these titles might actually belong to Tien Shinhan. Yet, other than Krillin or Yamcha, you'd be hard-pressed to find another Z-warrior who has been hard done in terms of their overall impact as much as him. But how can this be? And can we finally admit that Tien might actually be the last person to see Launch alive and probably has her locked up in a dungeon? Join me and let's try to uncover the truth behind arguably the most mysterious and underappreciated warrior ever to appear in the Dragon Ball universe. Tien made his debut in Dragon Ball alongside Chaozu, posing as conmen. Together, they extorted villagers until being foiled by Goku. Later on, the two would again cross paths while representing their respective schools in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Here is where we saw the depths of Tien's corrupted nature. But Roshi sees potential in Tien and tries to dissuade him. And after a close fight with Goku, a humble Tien begins to see the error of his ways. As time passes, powerful villains enter the fray. Tien reforms and joins the Z-Warriors. Despite drastically upping the intensity of his training, eventually Tien comes to realize his physical limitations early on and mentions something very interesting.
This is useless. I'll never be a match for Goku.
Despite making this revelation, he continues to train in much the same manner for most of the series, making incremental strength gains which are hard to distinguish from obsolescence, until arguably reaching his peak in the story when stymieing Cell, hereafter fading into filler obscurity. But is there more than meets the eye here? Was Tien really just meant to be borderline unremarkable, or is his story actually one of the greatest to never have been told? Let's find out. When Gohan first appeared in Dragon Ball Z, many characters were taken aback by his seemingly limitless raw potential. Later, it was discovered that this was due to him being a hybrid, possessing the emotions of a human and the powerful alien physiology of the Saiyans. More importantly, characters like Gohan also benefited from being mentored by members of both races that comprise their ancestry, as well as being under the tutelage of several divine masters. This afforded him and his contemporaries a wealth of knowledge and understanding that most could only dream of. In essence, a clear path to attaining unprecedented levels of power fairly easily. Now, despite being a hybrid himself, owing to his human and Triclops roots, Tien was never afforded the same luxury of understanding which catalysts were needed for him to best take advantage of his dual ancestry, until now. In an interview with Akira Toriyama, the creator of the Dragon Ball series has stated that Tien is thought to be a godlike being, possessing the gift of true sight, which we can infer as a nod towards his true, intended mystic and clairvoyant nature. Toriyama also notes that Tien has lost his connection to these properties due to being corrupted. The rest seems to be down to fate. It's well known that Shen and Roshi both studied under Master Mutato. Shen founded the nefarious Crane School, while Roshi headed the benevolent Turtle Hermit School. We don't really know the circumstances surrounding Tien's early life before joining the Crane School, but you can't help but wonder how things would have turned out for Tien had he been picked up by Roshi rather than Shen from the very beginning. However, Tien choosing to train almost exclusively with Chaozu instead of seeking out powerful masters in a similar manner to Goku has not helped matters when it comes to his development as a martial artist. Perhaps he felt obliged to do so due to the strong bond he has with his lifelong friend, but I don't know of any master in the Dragon Ball franchise who isn't willing to train more than one student at a time. And so Tien's role in Dragon Ball is mired with disconnects between his core character and the paths that he chooses. So, for Tien to reach his true potential, there are 3 possible paths open to him. The first is one that will likely allow Tien to make the greatest strides in terms of his character development and power limit. And this is, of course, the Time Room. Classic fans might faintly remember this mysterious chamber, while newer fans probably won't even know that it exists. The Time Room, like the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, is located on the Earth Guardian's lookout. It functions much like a window into the past, allowing the user to perceive historic events and interact with long-gone entities directly. Tien has actually used this chamber to gather reconnaissance in the past, so why not use it once more to gain deeper insight on the Triclops race he descended from? Perhaps they could impart valuable wisdom regarding his origin and advise him on how to best regain the connection to his lost powers. He could also come to better understand how to overcome his power plateau, as well as take advantage of his keen mimicry ability to learn a lot of the unique Triclops techniques that have been lost to time. As Dende has succeeded Kami at the lookout, we don't know whether this chamber still stands, but as we have no confirmation that it has been destroyed either, this seems like Tien's best chance at understanding his heritage and learning the truth behind the potentially vast abilities he may not know that he possesses. Secondly, as Tien's dormant abilities seem to be clairvoyant and magical in nature, I believe he would benefit greatly from studying with the likes of Fortune Teller Baba and the Kais. The Kais can help to realign Tien's spirit by purging whatever traces of corruption still exist within him, and given his inherent mystical ancestry, he may even be more receptive to their teachings than Gohan was. Tien should follow this up and seek out masters who can instruct him in the use of magic. Now, generally speaking, characters in DBZ are either physically weak magic users or tank-like martial artists who use ki. There's never really been a middle ground, which is to say, we've never really seen anyone use magic to augment their physical arsenal. But in Tien, we have the opportunity for someone to be both. Embracing this kind of hybrid style to complement his hybrid disposition might be the key to him finally being able to compensate for his power ceiling and mitigate any physical shortcomings he may have. Can you imagine how destructive Tien's attacks would be if they were magically enhanced? Sure, someone could tank the ki damage from a Neo Tri-Beam, but good luck dealing with whatever negative status effect Tien chooses to lace the blast with. Tien could even coordinate with the Z-Warriors and grant the rest of his party temporary buffs on the battlefield before heading in to deliver a solar flare that not only disorients the intended target, but also opens a portal which teleports them inside the core of the sun or the vacuum of space. These are just some ideas, but combined with his respectable martial arts skill, I believe Tien could use magic to vastly enhance his fighting prowess in ways that we have yet to really see in the series, and who better to do so than Tien? Lastly, if Tien is able to both study under the aforementioned masters and learn how to best make use of the unique properties that make up his hybrid physiology, I believe Tien would reach truly astounding heights were he to study with Whis. Now, don't get the wrong idea. I don't mean physical training to try and reach some sort of god transformation. No, something a lot simpler than that. Imagine if Tien were able to find some method of accessing godly ki. Now, despite its name, God Ki isn't exclusive to divine beings, as it was proven to be something that could be inculcated or attained through special incantations. And Tien, as we now know, has godlike roots, and Whis seems to be a lot more accommodating of new students than people first assume, especially for those willing to learn. So this too seems to be a viable path for Tien. It's entirely possible that Tien's hybrid ancestry doesn't allow him to do anything remarkable. Perhaps he is more human than alien, and thus has more weaknesses than strengths. We just don't know, and sadly, we may never find out. The truth is, Tien is a character whose greatness we never got to see, but who knows what the future holds in the Dragon Ball series. One thing I do know, when it comes to loyalty and willingly subjecting oneself to suffering in the name of the greater good, you'd be forgiven for thinking that a certain three-eyed warrior also had a heart that was 3 times the size of a normal one.